By the way, if anyone wants to see Charles Bridge after the tour, it's really easy. You just kind of walk down that street, and Charles Bridge will be on your right. If you miss it, oh my God, get your eyes checked. Anyway, oh my God, it's the final story of the Prague Uprising, which means you guys are going to be leaving me soon. Oh, that sucks. You guys were fun today. Anyway, before I start my story, I need to remind you of a very important fact. The ending date of World War II. Okay, the official ending date. It's so up for contention. There's like, you know, May 8th, May 7th, and then there's even like 1991, because that's when Russia finally signed it. But for this story, because it makes it funnier, we're using May 7th, 1945 as the ending date, because that's when everything was kind of signed, sealed, and delivered, okay? May 7th, 1945. And if you keep that in mind, it will make the story a lot funnier, okay? So, the Nazis have been here since 1938, right? And the Czechs, they've built up a kind of resistance, right? This resistance, though, is only 30,000 strong. And these guys, they're not trained fighters. You know, they're more intellectuals. You know, lawyers, doctors, actors, writers, screenwriters, choreographers, you know, all those good people. And by 1945, you know, Hitler's dead. The Allies are coming in from the west. The Soviets are coming in from the east. Europe is being liberated left and right. And the Czechs here in Prague, they think, you know what? We're not going to wait for anyone to liberate us. We're going to liberate ourselves. Now, this is the equivalent, however, of going into a bar, breaking a bottle over someone's head, and then running into the bathroom and waiting for your friends to come bail you out. Because they knew someone was coming, right? They knew. Right? So the Czechs, they decide to start their fabulous uprising, the Prague Uprising, on May 5th, 1945. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, every day on the radio, they had always said, it is 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they played German music. But today, they said, it is 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they played Czech music. So the Nazis hear this, and they think, oh, you know, we've got the Allies in the west, the Soviets in the east, and now these pesky Czechs, oh, make it stop. So they decide to stop the resistance right then and there by storming the radio station and stopping the music. Please don't stop the music. By the way, that video, I have such bad ADD. That video, Please Don't Stop the Music, the honest music video, filmed here in Prague. Really, that entire, anyway, of Prague, where was I? Right, they decide to storm the radio station, but they are followed by fighters of the Czech resistance, okay? And these guys start fighting for the radio station every single room. Every single room is valuable, fighting room to room, okay? And these guys are using any weapon they can find. You know, ceiling beams, hammers, pots, pans. A guy comes running with a basket of grenades that he saved from World War I. You never know when you're going to need grenades, right? So he starts throwing them around to see if they work. Oh my God, they do. People die. So these guys are fighting over the radio station for 18 hours, right? The radio DJ that day, he left the radio on. So if you were listening to the radio, you could actually hear the fighting going on in the background. So after 18 hours, the Czechs have managed to move the Nazi soldiers down, 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 all the way into a basement, okay? And the Nazis actually think this is not so bad, because there are no windows in the basement, no one can get defenestrated, right? Czechs love doing that. Also, there's only one long, narrow staircase going down, so the Czechs would have to come one by one. And the Nazis figure, well, we can just shoot them as they go, right? But, as you all know, Czechs are not violent, even when they're being violent. So instead, they stick hoses into the basement instead and turn on the water full blast. Now, the Nazis are standing there and they're thinking, really? You know? But the water, it gets up to here, and the Nazis think, Scheiße! It gets up to here, and the Nazis think, Doppelscheiße! And by the time the water gets up to here, the Nazis surrender. So the Czechs have the radio station, but they still don't have the city. So they set up barricades in the street, a la French Revolution, okay? And they cut off communication, water, supplies to the Nazi barracks. But the Nazis, they call it backup, right? And keep in mind that Prague had barely seen any bombing throughout the entire war, right? And now, backup's coming, Luftwaffe comes in, they start their lightning warfare, their blitzkrieg, right? So they start bombing Prague, destroying Prague. This is when they bomb Old Town Hall, right? And the Czechs, you know, they're like, wait a second, our city's being destroyed. On top of that, they're running out of weapons, they're running out of ammunition. With all the backup that has come to Prague, there are almost 1 million Nazi soldiers here. And do you guys remember how big the resistance was? 30,000. Bad odds.
I go bathroom.
I know, right? Like, where's the bathroom? So they were waiting for someone to come bail them out, right? And where are the Soviets? Where are the Allies? They're nowhere to be seen. Now, they heard that the Allies were actually in the town of Plzeň, right? Which is only about an hour west of here. So they figured, they call over the radio station and they say, Prague is burning, please come and help us. But the Allies never came. Now this is because the Allies and the Soviets agreed on a liberation strategy, okay? The Allies would liberate everything west of a certain line, and the Soviets would liberate everything east of a certain line. Now unfortunately for the Czechs here in Prague, that line went straight through Plzeň. So the Allies would not cross it. The Czechs had to wait for the Soviets, who, by the way, are no way to be seen. So the Czechs still need weapons, they still need ammunition, they need help like, whoa, and it's not coming from anywhere. Until there were a bunch of Russian soldiers. A bunch of Russian soldiers that thought, communism sucks, so let's go fight for the Nazis instead. And these Russians fighting for the Nazis, they knew that the Red Army was coming. And they knew that if they got caught, they would be put in Gulag prison camps. And they knew that if they were put in Gulag prison camps, they would die. They knew that the Allies had signed the Geneva Convention. So they figured, you know what, let's turn ourselves into the Allies. At least there we can live out our lives as prisoners of war, perhaps in a condo in Florida. So, unfortunately, the Czechs are not letting anyone leave Prague. But the Russians fighting for the Nazis, they go to the Czech people and they say, Czech people, it's been a good what? 7 years? We're really sorry about that occupation thing. Not our idea. And we're gonna go now, Czech people. But before we do, we want to give you some presents, okay? Bye. Here's a gun, here's a knife, here's a grenade. Fully loaded, very sharp, don't pull that pin. And that's what they did. It was like Christmas in May. The Czechs have all the weapons, all the ammunition they need. So they keep fighting the Nazis, and they managed to actually back the Nazis down until May 8th, 1945. When the Nazis and the Czechs sit down and decide to agree on a ceasefire. Not technically a victory, but a ceasefire, right? And the Nazis get a very good deal from the ceasefire, because number one, they get to live. Number two, they're allowed to leave the city of Prague. Now the Czechs, they get the shady end of the deal. They're allowed to keep the city of Prague untouched. But the Czechs are really happy with that, right? They go out into the streets and start celebrating, drinking beer, wine, vodka, rum, and absinthe. It's the national pub crawl! Everyone goes to bed, but everyone wakes up with a bit of a hangover, which is made 1,000 times worse by the fact that there are Russian troops in Prague, May 9th, 1945. And the Russians pop out of their tanks and they say, Czech people, we're here to save you. We heard the Nazis were here. Where are they? We'll shoot them. And the Czechs say, whoa, Soviets, whoa. I may be hungover, but that was like so yesterday. That was verbatim. And the Russians say, well, you know what, Czech people, you guys are obviously way too hungover to do anything about your government, so let's help you set one up, yeah? So as you guys can probably guess, the Czechs, they officially get 1 day of freedom. They trade in one first dictatorship for another. But that spirit, that fight for independence has run in Czech blood from Hus in 1415 to the resistance in 1945 to Polak in 1969, and finally, it was only able to be recognized 21 years ago when the Velvet Revolution finally brought freedom to Czechoslovakia, and we got to call Prague its very own city and its very own country. And that's the end, and thank you for being here. You guys want to go hide under the trees? Okay. Yeah, I know. know, that was fabulous time, wasn't it? Some of you may have some questions. The most common one usually is, where the hell am I? We're very close to Old Town Square. If you guys go through that light that we went through earlier and just keep going straight down that street, you'll get to Old Town Square in about 2 minutes. If anyone wants to go to the castle, you know where it is. It's across the bridge and up there. If you want to do the castle tour, it does meet right here. You're more than welcome to do it today, or you can do it tomorrow, or any other day after that for the rest of your life. If anyone wants to go inside and drink beer, I do not blame you. Oh, God, I wanted to tell you guys, there's the Czech Beer Festival going on. And it's only until May 30th. And it's at the end of the Red Line, the C Metro, okay? So the end of the C Metro at Letňany Station. Letnany.
Okay.
There's a lot of staircases going up. Just go up, follow the noise. Follow the carnival. It's kind of behind the carnival.